This is the Surly Grognard for April 13th, 2015. This is Peter Bowman, and as always, I'm joined by my good friend and co-host, Eric Carlson. How are you doing tonight, Eric?
I'm doing all right.
Most excellent. So, this week we actually have a hot topic suggestion. Words are hard. That's all, folks. Except it's not. But we have a topic suggestion from RB Harris, who writes in to say he's an on and off DM and player who's discovered the show and greatly enjoys it. Thank you, RB. Thank you, Mr. Harris. Writes in a topic that might work for the show is how to have war as a dropback or plot in an RPG. You know, you did an episode of war games, but how about a party in a fantasy or sci-fi RPG setting getting caught up in a war? This reasons come out discussions that while wars are a common plot in fantasy or science fiction, Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, etc., it can be hard to run them in certain RPG systems. For instance, high-level 3rd edition D&D wizards can essentially nuke entire armies in a single round, which kind of takes the fun and feel out of a whole scenario. Also, why would an Asian D&D even bother with an army when you can just hire a party of high-level adventurers that can literally slaughter entire cities at high levels? The system at high levels seems to make the classic clash of armies seems pointless and forced. Questions I have that relates to this are as follows. 1. Have you had experiences DMing or playing a game with war as a major focus? 2. If so, how was it handled? 3. How did it mesh with whatever system you were using? And 4. Could you recommend systems that would handle a campaign based around a war? There's a lot of stuff there to go through.
Yeah. All right. So where do we want to start on this?
Well,
because there are a few things I can start on here.
Yeah.
Like the usefulness of actual troops over like a small elite unit of adventurers.
Well, we'll get to that definitely.
Yeah.
War is a backdrop for a role-playing game. Both of us have actually played in games where that's been the case.
Yes.
And run games where that's been the case.
Yes.
The first one that leaps to mind, for me at least, is the MechWarrior games that I've been involved in.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not really sort of an active hot war most of the time in most of the games I've played in. It's sort of, the constant border skirmishes and such between the various nations, but you're generally playing soldiers of a sort, either mercenaries or house troops. So, and oftentimes, like, for the MechWarrior campaigns I've run, this is in the BattleTech setting, I usually, like, the ones I've run, both of them have been set right around the time of the clan invasions. Which means the players are getting dropped right into an actual war.
Yes.
So,
although with us it was a hurry up and wait, fight these pirates, hurry up and wait. We're going to expand our stuff. Holy crap, clans! What the hell are these things?
Yes. And that was sort of the point.
Yes.
But that is, in that case, the war with the clans, the upcoming war with the clans, is sort of the backdrop that I was setting up for that. Makes a certain amount of sense.
Yeah.
And I will say this, the nice thing about using war as a setting for an RPG, especially if the players are mercenaries or soldiers, is it means you do have the advantage of being able to give them very clear direction.
Yeah. Orders came down from on top, you're going this way.
Yeah. Which is a nice, not particularly subtle way of railroading, which the players probably won't actually object to.
Right, because we're mercs and soldiers.
They signed up for this. Literally. But yeah, like, even in the Iron Kingdoms game, war is something of a backdrop, just because there's war going on pretty consistently in the Iron Kingdom setting.
Yes. Whether or not it's an actual hot war, I think the current storyline, it's a hot war that's on the... It's a hot war going on right now. There are lulls in the fighting, but it's a hot war.
Right.
Kador doesn't like Signar. Signar doesn't like the Protectorate. Protectorate doesn't like anyone, and Crix is fucking up with everybody.
Yep. And that's ignoring, like, the Scorn.
Yeah, it's ignoring the Scorn, and the Trollblood insurrection, and the Circle of Obaros doing its crazy eco-terrorism, and Legion of Everblight fucking up with everybody.
Yeah. But, like, even, like, in the Iron Kingdoms game that I was running on the stream for a while, I often dropped sort of mentions of stuff that was going on in the ongoing war that's in the background. The
Right.
players are in a country which is not actually directly involved in it.
Yeah, and that's one way to do it. You're the tiny little doing stuff in the tiny little neutral nation between these two warring superpowers. And it's always something that's happening in the background you don't necessarily have to deal with initially.
Right.
Until you're sent into an active war zone in the middle of a deep, dark forest and have to deal with all sorts of horrible things.
What? I never did... Oh, wait, I did do that exactly,
Yeah.
didn't I?
I didn't do that to you guys on Tuesday either.
Nope, not at all. You didn't drop us in the middle of the Thornwood, at least.
No. Instead, I sent you into Kador-occupied Lael and dealt with the resistance fighters there.
Yep. And we got the hell out.
Which was the wise decision, considering how badly Hannah fucked up that job.
Yeah, yeah. Oh boy, that could have been bad.
She was so lucky that happened to be the night that the friggin' Manhunter decided to jump your boat.
Yeah, I was, yeah. Otherwise, I'd have found out and been very, very unhappy. Very, very unhappy.
As you had would have had every right to be.
Yep. So yeah. But yeah, that's definitely sort of a classic way to use it. I mean, both those ways, both the sort of the BattleTech way that I was talking about and that. But as to sort of sort of more swords and sorcery, sort of war going on and players being involved in the wars. I know I've done it at some point, but it's been a while, so I'm sort of fuzzy on it.
Yeah, it's been a while, but like just stuff from what I know, like from like reading history and playing war games. Like, yeah, the high level wizard in D&D can incinerate an army, but you know what? The other army probably has at least one high level wizard who's there just to counter that kind of shit.
Mm-hmm.
You bring a high level wizard to counter the other high level wizard, not to win the fight for you. That's how it works in Warhammer Fantasy. That's how it works in Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, even ignoring that, I mean, the problem with the small elite squad of super powerful adventurers is, yeah, they can kill huge numbers of troops, but they really can't hold positions.
Yes, and that's exactly something I was going to bring up. You can't have an entire army of special forces because they can't hold ground. It's not what they're trained to do. They're not going to win a siege for you either way. And you can send them into like poison wells or to spike cannons or something, but they're not going to batten down the walls and slay everyone inside by themselves.
Yeah.
Simply because, I don't care what level you are, having a 2-ton rock dropped on you while hammering on the walls hurts.
Now, I will admit that the wizards in D&D second, third edition especially, but in virtually every edition prior to fourth, honestly, especially third edition wizards, the fact they've got the arsenal spells that can nuke entire armies is bad. The problem is when they start summoning in more troops.
Yeah.
That's the real problem, is when the wizard all of a sudden summons an army on their own. And then the cleric does it. And then the druid does it.
Yeah, but then the other guys have their own wizards, clerics, and druids pulling the same shit, and it just becomes a clusterfuck.
Yes.
Probably the best thing to do that is just limit it by having, people carrying around enchanted standards that keep that shit on the down low.
Well, honestly, the real reason that you don't see lots of that is, in theory, the fluff behind most D&D games, there aren't tons of adventurers all around wandering around doing this that are getting to really high levels. Yeah, they exist, but most of them are in the sub-level 5 range.
Yeah.
So they're badasses.
Scary shit.
So they're badasses. They're a badass special forces unit. But they're not going to win an entire battle, like destroy an entire battle for an army. So, like, each nation might have their own unit group of adventurers that they could try to hire in, but also there's the fact that there's the nature of most adventurers is that, adventuring groups.
They are an unruly lot that will not be ruled.
Well, there's that, and also they're usually fairly, mixed up of people from different parts of the world, usually.
Yeah. Conflicting loyalties and all that.
Right. So, how far would a government trust them? Like, honestly, most D&D adventuring groups I've seen, like, is, like, a bunch of non-humans, and how far are these major human nations going to trust a group of mostly non-humans to
To do shit.
To do shit.
Yeah.
So they're not actually part of their army. They're not sworn loyal to the crown. They're mercenaries. How far do you trust a squad of ultra-powerful mercenaries?
Well, the answer to that is you don't.
Yes, exactly. You hire them to do something dangerous and hope they do it. But you don't expect them to win.
If they don't, oh well. Now you don't have to pay for them or worry about them betraying you in the end.
Right. Which is why you don't trust them to win you the war. Unless you're desperate. And if you're desperate, then...
If you're desperate, then you're already working on your crazy super weapon.
Right, exactly. And the adventures basically are that. Wow, there's a concept. The fact that adventures are actually the crazy super weapon of gaming fantasy worlds.
Yeah, actually.
See, now I've got this concept for, like, you know, a nation that's sort of those that like they've seen they're going to be in trouble in a war going forward. So they basically start like creating, like, specifically creating dungeons and such to train adventurers to make them powerful. So that all of a sudden at the end, so when things are dire, they have these squads of powerful adventurers to fling at the enemy as their crazy eventual super weapon. That's such a mad wizard plan. It's brilliant.
It really is.
Because they'll create these dungeons and stock them with the monsters they want the adventurers to be fighting. Because they can do that. And also it explains all the bizarre monsters you find in dungeons.
Why the hell is a manticore hanging out in a room next to the gelatinous cube?
Wow.
The wizard did it to train up soldiers for his super weapon against...
See, now I want to run this campaign. That's a great idea. It's so stupid. It's hysterical and brilliant. Oh my god. And when the players figure out what's going on, they're going to be so pissed. It's like, hey, wait a minute!
Hey, we've been manipulated this whole time.
Oh my god. But I mean, the problem is, like, with D&D worlds, if there are, like, huge numbers of high powerful adventurers, especially wizards, there's a lot of things that you start realizing don't make any fucking sense if you really think about it.
Yeah.
Like, because eventually, if you've got a lot of lots and lots of really powerful wizards, you realize that, you know, magic's just going to replace technology. It's just going to happen.
Yeah. And you're going to have and the wizards are going to end up in charge.
Right, like, you know, all of a sudden, you know, like, 2nd edition D&D, a great example for mine came up with, my friend Peter Shaw came up with this, is, I mean, couldn't you envision, like, you know, you want a great road built? Well, the easiest way to do that is to get a group of high-level wizards, all of whom know Wall of Stone.
Yeah.
You just start casting it horizontally. Walls of Stone is ignition were permanent until destroyed. Just cast it horizontally across the land to just create a road that way.
Yeah.
Save time and
labor.
labor.
Tarmac.
It's stuff like that. You start thinking about stuff like that. Or in 3rd edition, the fucking fabricate spell.
Oh yeah.
That spell is completely ridiculous. Which is one of the reasons they banned it from. They removed it from the list for the Iron Kingdoms D20 game.
Well, yeah, they removed a lot of problematic spells from the Iron Kingdoms D20 game.
Yes, because they said, "Hey, wait a minute." Yeah.
Like blink, no, you can't do that.
Yeah, well, all the
you can, you don't want
to. Yeah. Also, they shot healing in the head, but
yeah, well, that's always been sort of an Iron Kingdoms thing.
Yeah, and I'm of two minds about it.
Yeah, I'm similar.
I think they actually got a better balance on actually the way handling healing in combat in their own RPG.
Yes, well, they weren't trying to wedge a concept that they had into an existing system.
But it's much easier to survive combat, honestly, at low levels in the Iron Kingdoms role-playing game than low-level Iron Kingdoms D20.
Oh yeah, have you seen the Monsternomicon for the old D20?
No, I haven't.
Everything in there is challenge rating 3 or higher.
Right.
And it lies. It's actually like 2 challenge ratings higher.
Yeah, because, you know, players can't... Because almost all the challenge ratings in 2nd edition, 3rd edition D&D are based on the presumption that you can heal.
Yeah.
And you really can't in the Iron Kingdoms D20. I mean, you can, but it's not...
You just don't necessarily want to. Oh, I'm sorry, all your organs were replaced with spiders. Menoth wasn't happy.
So
weren't enough of a Menite. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So yeah. But back to sort of the whole topic of, game mastering in war situations. So that there's that big thing is that, as I said, I do think that there is a place, similarly for science fiction. Like, you think of, like, there's a lot of settings where you think, okay, yeah, well, there's, science fiction, fine, Battletech, giant mechs stomping across the battlefield fighting each other, great. Most science fiction universes that. The problem is that if you think about it, there's a bigger problem for most science fiction universes about there being, like, ground combat being an important part of war.
That's superiority.
Than, the adventuring parties in fantasy games, which is, Eric said, space superiority.
Yes.
If you have...
You get around that in Battletech by having the
Ares conventions. Yes. The Ares
basically,
conventions.
the Geneva Conventions, it says, no, you can't bombard stuff from space.
Right, because if you have space superiority and you have interstellar naval assets that have, weapons that, most... Orbital bombardment is a real problem.
Yes.
And what the fuck is an army going to do about that? Beyond, like, the only time you'll see armies, in theory, fighting in ground combat, if... logically would be in places that you need to take intact.
Yeah,
because if they're operating on the open, whatever, we'll just burn them out with our orbital. Whoever's got space superiority will burn them down. And no army has an actual hope to hold out anywhere outside of territories that are going to be taken if the other side has space superiority.
Right.
So logically, you have to come up with ways around that. The first one being that if you're going to have a war, if you're planning on doing sort of a war-based science fiction role-playing game, focus it around the space navies.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden,
do more like Gundam and Robotech and Battleship Yamato, and less, I don't know, Warhammer 40K.
Yeah. Because ship-to-ship combat, if you want the hand-to-hand sort of normal guy combat, not just ship-to-ship combat, boarding action is important there.
Yes.
In theory. I mean, again, it depends on the sci-fi universe.
Or, friggin' mechs flying around and fighting on the surfaces of spaceships, which is also something that should happen in every game.
Where that's possible, yes.
No, every game.
No, not every game. I will say this, you will keep your mechs out of my Space Battleship Yamato universe. God damn it.
I don't want to bring a Zaku 2. It's just a Zaku 2. It's nothing special.
No. You will not insert mecha into my Space Navy. Space Naval Combat. Because Yamato's all about actual, like, naval sort of themes in space. And mecha do not really fit naval themes. They're ground combat.
Sure they do.
They're either ground combat or air combat. That doesn't really fit very well.
Carriers.
The carriers are fine. It's just that mecha just don't seem to really. It takes it from feeling naval and makes it feel more combined arms.
I guess so, but I'm still going to bring my Zaku 2. You can't stop me.
Watch me.
Fear the Green Cyclops.
Oh look! It fails its existence check and disappears from reality in a puff of logic. Oh well.
Logic has no place in space combat.
Too bad. Powers that be have decided that your mecha can't exist.
Nope. No. Sorry, dude. I disbelieve your powers that be.
Well, since all turn I be the game
throw to resist illusion. Ha! I disbelieve your powers that be.
Sadly, since I'm almost the one who became mastering. Mind you, I probably wouldn't end up running a Space Battleship Yamato RPG campaign because I'm not sure that worked very well. But also, I know if I was doing something that big in intergalactic, Eric would almost certainly insist on wanting to have mecha, and I'd have to find a way to work it in. That would mean it would not be Yamato.
Yeah, you could not keep me away from the giant robots. I mean, you could try, but you'd fail. I'd find a way to do it. Look up on the transformation circuit on the Yamato, and now it turns into the SDF-1.
No, wrong. There is none of that. Bah. The Yamato is far cooler than the SDF-1, and I'm sorry.
The SDF-1 punches other battleships to death.
Meh.
Punch to death. Also, it still has the big giant cannon, so,
I will take the wave motion gun over the reflex cannon any day of the week. Because the wave motion gun is actually a plot device. And not actually a weapon, and you know it, Eric.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. The reflex cannon is treated as a weapon. The wave motion gun is just Deus ex canona.
I will say this: the thing I love most about the Space Battleship Yamato is the fact that they basically almost never use the wave motion gun,
right?
Because it actually has drawbacks to make up for its egregious powers of plot.
So does the reflex cannon.
It does,
actually.
Which is why
both of them are blow the fuck out of everything and hope nothing's left because you're shut down for an extended period of time.
Well, the wave motion gun is not even just that. It's like, okay, we basically have to stop doing anything to power it up.
Yeah.
Then we fire. Then we have to reboot everything afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah, the reflex cannon is just, we're losing. We're losing. Do we want to use it? Not yet. We're still losing. Okay, yeah, just push the big red button.
Yeah. But again, Eric and I will never agree on the whole sort of, Robotech versus Star Blazers thing. But
one has Max and is therefore clearly superior.
One has Captain Avatar and is therefore clearly superior.
Dude, Global was awesome.
I will never deny that Global was awesome. He is not Captain Avatar.
I don't know, dude. Bridge bunnies. Bridge bunnies plus Global equals just better.
Carrying the crew of the Yamato and saving the universe while dying of radiation poisoning.
But that doesn't have sexy bridge bunnies.
Yes, but it makes him far more of a badass.
Lisa fucking Hayes.
I'm not going to try to win this argument with you, Eric. I know I can't argue you down. It's not actually an argument. We can't argue each other down on this one.
This is true.
Also, I will also freely admit that in Yamato 2199, Okita becomes even more awesome, which is I didn't think was possible.
Yeah.
Also, Yamato 2199 has Akira Yamamoto, who's fucking awesome. She's the fighter pilot.
Oh, her. Okay.
Who is fucking awesome.
Yeah, she is pretty awesome.
But she's far more.
Yeah,
she's
like Max with boobs, so therefore kind of awesome. Okay.
See, Fenton Morden mentions I've been a game like that using the big eye small mouth mecha rules was really fun, but the system is completely broken in terms of damage you can. Yes, well, big eye small mouth is designed to simulate over the top anime combat, so yeah. Also, it's based on the TriStat system, which is a not terrible system, but is one of my least favorite generic systems.
Never actually used it.
It's okay. It's a decent generic system that works best with big eye small mouth, I've found.
Okay.
It's got sort of that problem that I have with a bunch of systems, which is it can't really decide where it wants to fall on the the simple story-driven game versus the mechanically crunchy game, and it sort of fails at being either. So there are lots of sort of areas of ambiguity in exactly how the rules work on some things in TriStat, but it's still mechanically very crunchy. So it's like, I want to like the system more than I do. And I think I would probably like it more if I didn't have experience with other point-based generic systems that actually know what they are. It's definitely not rules light, but it treats itself like it is sometimes, basically.
Gotcha.
It's like, you just hand-wave this stuff and do it the way it's started, but the rest of your system is very mechanically heavy and crunchy. You can't just randomly hand-wave stuff in systems like that. It makes things feel very strange. Yes, okay, we understand how all this stuff works mechanically, and then fuck it if I know how this works.
Screw it.
I mean, it almost feels like GW wrote the rules, except, they were more competent.
Yeah, and it's kind of scary when GW does a better job at writing rules.
Well, no, TriStat did a better job.
Oh, okay.
No. TriStat, with the guys who did Guardians of Order, I believe, were the guys who did it, if I remember correctly. And it is a better job. They did a better job with the rules than GW does with their stuff. Also, it's a role-playing game, so you're allowed to have more flexibility, more sort of ambiguity and that sort of stuff than you are in a war game.
Yes,
war games, you're not allowed to say, I don't know how this mechanic works.
Dice for it.
Dice for it, mate. The players are allowed to say that in situations they can't if they make a mistake reading the rules. The rules designers cannot say this.
That is dumb, so we shall ignore it.
No one would do that. That's cheesy. They've said that in their own publications.
I know they have. But you guys have an active tournament scene. Of course people are going to do that.
No, they wouldn't. That would be wrong. You would never do anything like that in any sort of competitive setting because that would be cheesy and boring.
And people wonder why I don't play Games Workshop games anymore.
Yeah, because their designers are morons. Well, they're not morons, but they're really not good at game design.
Great at world building. I love their worlds, but yeah.
I can understand that argument, even if I'm not a gigantic fan of all their game worlds. That said, I understand why people like them. So, it's an argument I'm willing to accept. Anyone who says they're actually good at writing rules is clearly on crack, or in denial.
I can point to 4 other game systems that do it much, much better.
Yeah, well. At any rate, back to sort of the topic of sort of, running games involving wars.
War in RPGs. One of the best ways that I was thinking to do have your powerful players involved in a war and make them feel important, make them feel like badasses, is send them on the kind of stuff that you'd send special forces on.
Mm-hmm.
Send them to capture and or kill an enemy general. Send them behind enemy lines to disrupt supply trains and shit. I don't care what period of war your world is set into, supply trains are an important thing that cannot be disrupted. Or cannot be allowed to be disrupted. And it's a perfect target for adventurers.
I agree. Yeah, for that sort of thing especially, yeah, absolutely.
And it makes them feel like badasses. You guys need to, like, blow this bridge, or keep them from getting ammunition or food. You need to, like, go and kill or capture this general who is en route to the front. These are all perfect things that will make them feel like badasses, and they're giving them an actual effect on the field without having them just slaughter 10,000 goblins.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, and you can have moments where they get to do the slaughter 10,000 goblins thing, because that's fun too.
Yes, absolutely. But it's clear that you are important, but you're not all important, is what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely. And other things, like, you can, if they start having, like, an impact on the battlefield, honestly, I love the concept of, like, you're fighting against evil army, and they have their own sort of crazy, bizarre super weapon thing that you have to, like, find a way to stop.
Yeah, or, like, you're
hitting the supply train, I was about to say, is one of the best ways, like, best weaknesses you can give to a super weapon.
Yes. It's like, we need 10,000 slaves to, like, feed into this thing to fire the super necro bolt. But we don't have enough, so you go in and you free all the slaves. So now they don't have fuel for the necro bolt.
Right, exactly. Shit like that is great.
Or even if, like, they're sitting there slaughtering 10,000 goblins and it's getting a little tedious, guess what? Throw an enemy champion at them.
Mm-hmm.
Have them called on in a challenge by an enemy champion. Make it basically a mirror fight.
Sure, you can do that. There are lots of things you can do. That's the thing. So, I mean, I do think that you can basically have a sort of successful sort of... And as we said earlier, I mean, war doesn't have to necessarily be the forefront either, and have it still affect campaigns significantly.
Right.
I mean, just thinking, as we said, like, just having it in the background, like, it affects what's going on in the world around it.
I'm actually reminded of the Saturday Iron Kingdoms game where we were in the Thornwood and we got jumped by the Circle Warband.
Yeah.
and Alice's character, the Mage Hunter, decides to go after their warlock. Well, the warlock sicks a friggin' warp wolf after her. So it becomes this sort of three-way cat and mouse where Alice is trying to get to the warlock while avoiding the warp wolf, who is trying to get to her while the warlock is trying to avoid Alice.
Right.
And it was kind of cool.
Yeah, I thought that was... I was actually very pleased with that moment.
Yeah.
Also, you know, I, again, sort of took advantage of knowing exactly what Alice was probably going to do.
Which was make a beeline for the warlock, yes.
Yeah. It's less than one of my trying to disabuse her of the idea of make a beeline at the start of every fight for the enemy spellcaster. As not necessarily being the obvious, brilliant idea to start every fight with. I think I finally drove the point home in that battle with Malenkov, though.
Oh, right, with the berserker and him having a sucker.
Yep. Aha! I charge forward and attack him. The warjack steps behind the warjack and you hit the warjack. Plink.
I'll do it again. He steps behind the warjack again. He's just going to keep doing this.
And it went plink again, didn't it? Yep. Well...
Manhunters!
Yes, and now the Manhunter charges you. And the Warjack charges at you. Fortunately for you, a friendly your allied Warcaster stepped in front, and she gets plowed under the ground instead of you.
Yeah. That was a good fight, actually.
It was.
A shame Word got plowed, but...
Yeah, I felt bad about that, but... Yeah, Alice got out of that actually basically uninjured, but kind of learned her lesson despite the...
Oh, yeah. Like, well, she totally got by that, like, by the skin of her teeth, also. Because, Rook and Lasser took the hits for Madeline.
Yep.
And yeah. It was clear. Those are going to hit you.
Yeah. It was pretty bad. I didn't even get to the point where I didn't even get to lesson 2, which is that you know your defense 16 does not make you invulnerable. I'm going to start throwing grenades at you. Because AoEs are annoying.
Yes, they are. Well, they could have just given Malakov Tempest and just knocked her down every turn.
What? No! I would never have done that.
I mean, you can't... even if you can't actually hit her, it's an AoE. It's got a good chance of still hitting her.
Yeah, I know. I debated doing that, but I decided not to be a complete asshole.
That would have been kind of an asshole-ish thing.
That would have been actually me trying to kill Alice's character as opposed to trying to, create an interesting tactical situation that also had the benefit of showing her the wisdom of the unwisdom of her ways.
Right. So anyway.
So, yeah,
Not that Alice didn't have some incredibly badass moments in that game.
Oh, dear God, yes, she did.
Like, the friggin', running down and blowing up the train.
That was great. I did not see that coming, but it was awesome.
That was friggin' beautiful, is what that was.
That was fantastic, I have to admit. But sort of, yeah, so... I think we've mostly covered most of the questions that Mr. Harris had. We both had experience DMing or playing the game with Wars and Major Focus. We talked about how we handled it and how did it mesh with whatever system you're using. As we said, I think that almost any system can handle it. It's just some do it better than others. Can we recommend a system that would handle a campaign based around a war well? Well, Iron Kingdoms, honestly, especially prior to Veteran Tier, and even then.
Yeah. Particularly if you have access to any of the War Machine books, you can just lift stuff straight out of the book and give it health.
Yeah.
Which both Peter and I have done.
What? No, yeah, we have multiple times. I won't even bother faking denial on that. Let's see. Any version of MechWarrior will work.
I disagree. Early versions of MechWarrior are unplayable and therefore will not work.
I won't go as far as they're unplayable, but they're not good. I would recommend 4th edition MechWarrior.
Yeah.
It's a decent system.
Or the current art. What is it, like Time of War?
That's what I'm talking about. That is.
That one. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Time of War.
Yeah, I find the the experience values to be unnecessarily fiddly, especially during character creation.
Yeah, I'm not sure
But
why
it's a perfectly valid system.
Yeah, it's not the best system I've ever played, and I agree with Eric. The point values for you're buying your characters seem unnecessarily inflated. Like, there's granularity in there they take zero advantage of.
Yes.
It's like, yes, it's got all this room to be granular, except we're not going to take advantage of that because, ha! What?
Yeah.
Like, there are a few skills, like, every now and then, like, yeah, at this level, skills cost 75 points. Okay, that would be a reason to have this granularity. Except that no one will stick with that level, because they'll just buy it to the next one, because they've got so many points to work with! Yeah!
Minor flaw with the system is what we're saying.
Minor flaw with the system. Other than that, it's a decent system. Honestly, let's see, other systems that would work well for sort of doing war-based stuff. I mean, to belabor the point, GURPS and Hero System, you can do it.
GURPS and Hero System both work perfectly well. It's not the focus of the game, but you can do it with Shadowrun.
Mm-hmm.
Shadowrun is actually perfect for doing the special ops team going off.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's perfect for that kind of stuff.
It's almost the rise and decay of Shadowrunners to a certain degree. They are special ops teams in and of themselves. It's sort of what they are.
Yeah, pretty much.
And basically, there's a Cold War going on between the corporations. So.
Yeah, and that's why they hire Shadowrunners. And plausible deniability and hyper competence.
Let's see what else. Other system. I mean, you could do it with D&D. I wouldn't recommend something like Feng Shui.
Feng Shui is all about like super action star stuff,
right?
And doesn't really work for more of a gritty wartime thing.
Oh, God help me, stay away from anything by White Wolf.
Oh yeah, no, nothing by White Wolf.
God help me. Like, Exalted clearly in some ways wants you to do that. I'm just not sure it would actually be able to do it well. I guess Legend of the Five Rings might work okay for it. I haven't played it much, and it's been a long time since I played it. And they're in a new edition.
I've never played Legend of the Five Rings. I've always kind of wanted to. The Crab and the Nizumi both interest me a great deal, but I've never had the opportunity to play.
Yeah, I've not played the newer editions. I played First Edition and hated it.
Right.
Unsurprisingly, because it was written by John Wick, who can die in a fire as far as I'm concerned. I'm exaggerating. I don't want him dead. I just want him never, ever writing anything involving role-playing games ever fucking again. I'm not a fan of John Wick, so let's just put it that way. You know, I'm thinking that he might be my least favorite game designer.
Given your rabid hatred of him, yeah, I think so.
Huh. At any rate,
by all accounts, Steve Jackson is a jerk and a half, but
he actually knows
a decent system.
Yes. I'm perfectly okay with the fact that, I don't care that I would probably hate Steve Jackson as a person. He can design a fucking game, so thumbs up. As a game designer, as a person, he might be a prick. At any rate, that has nothing to do with what we're talking about, though.
I'm trying to think of other systems that would work. There's the Fantasy Flight Only War, which I haven't really had a chance to look at. But the premise is you're playing a grunt guardsman in the Imperium of Man's army. So that might be worth looking into. But if it's anything like their other ones, I'm not sure how well it would work.
Right.
Of course, the other ones are all about being big damn heroes or, oh my god, what have we gotten ourselves into? So, sometimes both at the same time.
Yeah, from what I've heard, that definitely sounds like the case. Blanking on other systems that I'm sort of thinking about. I mean, you could do it in almost any system, honestly. I mean,
yeah.
As much as like I said, don't ever do this in White Wolf. You could do it in White Wolf. You can make it work. I'm just not sure.
It doesn't. You lose a lot of the things that make it White Wolf worth playing by trying to do mass combat in that way. And it's kind of silly. Kind of silly.
Yeah. I mean, you probably will end up doing something like that if you run an Amber campaign long enough. A large scale war will end up happening.
Right.
But Amber's very special in the way it handles stuff like that. So
Yeah.
not something I would actually use for a generic sort of thing like that at all.
Ember is very much its own beast in pretty much every way.
It really is. Apparently, the rules people have actually taken the rules. There's a new, basically there's Amber without the actual world. It's got its own new world sort of slapped on top of it. I don't know what the name of it is. My friend Jesse pointed out, mentioned it. I forgot what it was. But yeah, because Amber itself is the
yeah.
So yeah, what were you saying, Ella?
The fate system might work. I never played it, and I've been a while since I've looked at it, but it might work because you've got the whole like roll a bunch of dice and like trying to like line up these aspects and whatnot. So that might be easy to translate into a large scale thing. It's been a while since I've looked at it, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know the fate system too well myself. It's one of the ones I haven't fussed around with much.
Yeah.
My problem is I've fussed around with so many different systems, I forget about half of them.
Yeah, same here.
It's like, and yeah, I played that at some point. Don't really remember it too well.
Oh, Dream Pod's 9's Heavy Gear. It's pretty much built for that.
Yeah, well, what's the name of that fucking system? Crap.
I don't remember what this is. Silhouette.
Silhouette. Yes, that's it.
Yes, Silhouette.
Silhouette's
pretty much built for that.
It probably could be.
Yeah. It was originally designed as a war game, and then got translated. Was it the other way around? I don't remember.
They came out about the same time, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
It basically was released as a war game, both a war game and a role-playing game simultaneously, if I remember correctly.
Right. I always wanted to play Heavy Gear. No one else ever did.
I played around with it. I was not a gigantic fan of the world or the system, but that was purely from a personal taste standpoint, not an objective. This is bad standpoint.
Bad Max with mechs. I'm all over it, honestly. So
I am totally not even a little bit surprised. I don't think I knew you at all at the point when I actually tried it out. So
I don't think so. I remember trying it as a war game with the Keeman Quinn, and determining that like certain things in the edition we were playing, which is the first edition, there've been a couple since then, did not work well. Like the crit system was just, and your big heavy is dead from the plink gun. Oh.
Yeah, some of
the every game.
Yeah, some of the gears were remarkably just terrifying off brokenness.
Yeah.
You, Snake Eyes Black Mamba.
The Black Mamba.
With your stupid sniping death laser of doom, incredible speed, and nearly impossible to hit. The thing was broken as fuck. Oh my god.
There's the Hunter X also, which is sort of the same but opposite. That thing loved getting up close and shredding stuff.
Right. But yeah, so I guess Silhouette would probably be a good choice, honestly. I think you're right. I would say away anything published by Palladium, but that's just because I would say stay away from anything published by Palladium.
Yeah.
Not just because it's a war game. A war-based RPG.
There's also the fact that combat in Palladium takes long enough as it is. Scaling that out to large-scale combat is just...
for almost anything, you're going to have to abstract things.
Yeah.
Unless they have their own built-in mass combat rules, which some games do.
Some games do, yes.
I do know that Hero System does somewhere have sort of abstracted mass combat rules. I just don't remember where they... It's in either the main book or one of their supplements, and I forget which it is.
Iron Kingdoms has two. It's called War Machine and Hordes.
Yeah, basically. BattleTech does. MechWarrior does too. It's called BattleTech.
Right.
But yeah, generally speaking, there are a lot of games that do, like, if there's at all a possibility of their war being going on somewhere, the author, they probably do have mass combat rules written somewhere, and you'll want to read them. because they'll probably be useful and be a good way to abstract things. I remember someone asked me about how to handle a siege. Asked us how to handle a siege in a D&D 4th Ed game one week for an episode of Grognards. It was a question someone asked us, and I remember sort of thinking that probably the best way to handle it is sort of a long, ongoing skill challenge. Honestly, almost, where the players basically are just role playing out what they're doing during the siege, and having the skill checks. Basically, being successes or failures in the curve of this long, ongoing skill challenge. Determine how well they hold out, and then you basically have things, and have the things they do modify what is going to happen in the big upcoming battle. And then once the actual fight starts, you start abstracting it, because you have to.
Yeah.
Because a fight with an army's fight in 4th edition will take forever. As much as I love 4th edition's combat, no.
Oh, there's one obvious thing about like sending a group of players against a horde of goblins by themselves that I totally forgot. Fighting is hard and takes a long time. It takes a lot out of you. I don't care how badass you are. After 20 minutes, you're going to be fucking exhausted. Never mind the 6 hours.
Oh God! I will say flat out. The thing, if you send a group of player characters up against a truly huge amount of like weak enemies, odds are in 3rd edition, eventually they will be worn. The players will be worn down by crits.
Yeah.
Given that 5% of all enemy attacks coming in will actually automatically hit, and yeah, they'll be able to shrug that off for a long while. But eventually, if there's enough enemy troops, they'll just be buried under numbers.
Yeah.
It's the problem of just throwing dice at you.
And it's the reason why numbers count.
Yep. And Clark One, my friend Peter Shaw in the chat, points out that for mass combat, MechWarrior has battle force / alpha strength. He's right. Cryptical88 also asks, would you recommend a certain D&D edition over another? Okay. This boils down entirely to a matter of personal preference, to be totally honest.
Yeah. I have a personal and irrational hatred of 2nd edition.
Right.
I will admit it's better than 1st, but I give 1st more leeway.
I totally understand that, honestly.
I have no real bones with 3.5 versus 4. I like both of them for different reasons, which makes me a weirdo. I have not played 5th, so I have no opinion.
Yeah, I've not played 5th, so I can't talk on that. As a player, I have a slight preference for 4th edition over 3rd edition. But I'm willing to play both. Although I would actually, I have a preference for 4th edition over 3rd edition. At 3.5. I prefer 4th edition as a player. As a game master, it is 4th edition by such a large distance, it's not even funny. Literally, you have to do some very special things to tweak that and rules changes to get me to play run 3rd edition, 3.5. Like honestly, Slayer's D20 is one of the very few 3rd edition 3.5 supplements versions I will play willingly as a game master, and because that changes so many different things. I just don't like running don't like running 3rd edition at all. It's not my thing. And I mean, there's just a lot of things about it I just don't like it, like from a game master standpoint. Whereas 4th edition, I just prefer. It's a system I have a personal preference for. That said,
yeah. I would like to try out 5th at some point, but I'm not in any rush to do so.
Yeah.
It does win some points with me, and then it has half-orcs in there as an initial starting race that I didn't have to wait for a fucking supplement for. I have to deal with 3 different kinds of elves before I got a decent monster race. Looking at you, 4th edition.
It was only one supplement. It was only one core book between the two of them, and there are only 2 elves that you got before then, unless you're counting half elves.
Count.
They are not. No, that's 2.5 elves, Eric.
I'm rounding up.
And they had proper monster races in there, just not ones that you. They had both the Dragonborn and the Tieflings.
Yeah, I guess so. Dragonborn are giant lizard monsters that breathe various elemental effects, so I guess that's okay.
See?
Still, they're not good proper orkiness.
They're not orcs. You are correct. They're very different than orcs. But you said proper monster races, and I called you on it and got you. So there. Yeah, I totally get you not being a big fan of the tieflings, though. I love the tieflings.
The tieflings just...
They're not proper. They're not the right type of monster.
They're not my cup of tea.
Right, they're not your type of monster.
They're not my finger of bourbon.
Fair enough. I actually quite like them, but I like most of the races in 4th edition.
I can see why people like tieflings, but they're just not for me.
Right. Honestly, I like basically all the base races in the 4th edition book, Player's Handbook. Yeah, I do. Especially once they added some of the optional stuff to them, the split stats.
Yeah, the split stats are actually a pretty bright move, honestly.
That was a great idea. I liked that. I liked the and the additional, like the optional sort of alternate racial powers for a couple of them was a big help. Like, you know, the ability to choose either the third at will or take heroic effort for humans, dilettante versus knack for success for half elves and such. But yeah, I've not played 5th edition yet. I will probably at some point. I've just in zero. I happen to really like 4th edition, so I really see zero reason to go to a new system that I know is actually very different. And from what I've read in the playtest, it changes things. It does things that I don't like. I'm not a particularly fan of. It sort of draws heavily on 2nd and 1st edition, which for me is a big problem.
From what I've had a chance to look at, and I've had a chance to peruse it, but not extensively, it does some interesting things and that I'm interested in looking at. I don't want to say it draws heavily on 1st or 2nd so much as it goes for that sort of classic feel, but sort of gets rid of the useless rules ideas. It's trying to make you feel that without being stupid about it.
I guess. I don't know. I was singularly unimpressed by most of what I read in playtest, so that was me. So from what I understand, there's some things that changed to the last version of the playtest rules I looked at, but I was
almost certainly. But
I was remarkably unimpressed with the system for a long while. So, but that said, I will probably check it out at some point. The problem being that I have to plot. If I'm going to play it, I will almost certainly be plunking down around about $100 on it because I'm going to almost certainly be the game master, which means I need the DMG and the monster manual also.
Right.
It is my curse. Why do I like game mastering so much?
I don't know, dude. It's fun once in a while, but I don't know, dude.
It triples my investment costs in virtually every RPG I want to play. God damn it.
To be fair, for most of them, that's not necessarily true. You just end up wanting to pick up the other books anyway. Like, you don't need to pick up, like, extra books for Shadowrun or Cyberpunk or MechWarrior or GURPS or whatever.
Well, GURPS you definitely want the setting books, but the players will want those too, so it's not like
Well, like, even Iron Kingdoms, you can get by with just the core rules for everybody.
Yeah, although I would say flat out, I really wish they'd released the Monsternomicon earlier.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Because that really needed more actual...
monsters?
More monsters that they had in the base book.
Yeah, from what I understand, Unleashed is supposed to have a whole lot of Gribblies in it, too.
Great, and that's wonderful.
Yes.
But I will say this, as a game master, it is a good thing you guys... for you guys as players that I'm experienced enough as a game master to feel comfortable making up monsters as I go. Because there would have been a lot less variety in stuff you fought if I hadn't been.
Yeah.
At any rate, I hope that answered our viewers' questions about as well as we could hope, because I think we're just about done for the week. Yeah. So... at any rate, thank you guys so much for watching. We normally save time at the end of each episode for viewer questions, but this whole episode is basically a viewer question, and we didn't get any other ones, so We don't get a lot of your questions, unfortunately. We'd like to get more. So if you have questions
Yes.
you'd like to answer in the show, email them to us. Our email address is surlygrognards@yahoo.com. That is surlygrognards@yahoo.com. Or you can post them on our forums, which you can find at mechagm.forumer.com. If you got show topic suggestions for us, we love those to pieces. As you can see from this week, we actually got a good one. We love getting those because it means we can focus on stuff you guys want to have us focus on. And also it means we have to do less work.
Yeah, that's probably the most important thing.
I'd say it's 50-50, honestly. I'd say it's about half and half, to be totally fair. But no, seriously, it really does help to know what you guys want to hear us talk about. So.
Yeah, it is pretty awesome to like get those suggestions and being like, okay, cool, they want to hear about this stuff. Like, even just accepting, like, ignoring the fact that it makes our jobs easier.
Yeah, even if it didn't,
we'd still want to know.
Yes. If you got critical feedback for us, like I said that wrong. If you've got criticisms for us, ways we can make the show better, constructive feedback, we love feedback. We want to know how we can make the show better for you guys. So let us know, both either via email or on the forums. So questions, topic suggestions, feedback, that covers all of that jazz. We record the show every Monday night here on twitch.tv/mechagm. We record at 7 p.m. Eastern. I try to upload the recordings of the episode to YouTube as soon as possible afterwards. Sometimes I get distracted and end up not uploading it till later in the week, but it usually makes it up that week. So you can find the recordings of this show on youtube.com/mechagm. I tweet out when the show's going to go live. You can see keep an eye on my Twitter, where my Twitter handle is @mechagm. If you keep an eye on that there, you'll see when the show's going to go live. If you did listen to the recording on YouTube, feel free to hit like and subscribe. You'll know when episodes go up then, without having to keep an eye on my Twitter or anything like that. So YouTube will tell you. Other than that, thank you so much for watching tonight. I hope you all enjoyed the show. Hope you found something useful, entertaining, or helpful.
Or entertainingly useful.
Yeah, we try to be useful or entertaining. We sometimes succeed.
We don't often. It's usually one or the other.
Yeah, to be totally honest, yeah. We actually managed to stay on topic for almost the entire episode this week. Well done, us.
Shocking. That's clearly we've been replaced by doppelgangers.
Yeah, I am a robot.
I have been replaced by reptilian agent. I will now eat this entire guinea pig like in that one episode of V.
Eric, how is that particularly different than the way you normally are?
It's not really.
Anyways, guys, see you guys next week. Take care and keep on gaming. Bye, everybody.
Bye.